we're going to move forward. Okay. So we're on. We want to discuss some of the software analysis and design tools that we'll be looking at. The two major tools that we will have to work with or speak about um, is essentially the data flow diagram and the entity relationship diagram. Now, let me just see, show of hands, how many of you all are in IT class? How many of you all in IT class? Because this section, okay, quite a few of you. All right, good. So I get the impression 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At least 10 or 11 of you are already doing IT. 13 of you are doing IT. So that's good because this is where the subject IT and the subject computer science overlaps. If you're doing IT, you chances are you may have already done the data flow diagrams or up at this point. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Have you all
Yes.
met the yeah? All right.
Yes, sir. But honestly,
Mhm.
the DFDs and what we started now, the ERDs, was what was giving people a lot of trouble, and like
Right.
say, going over and over. So
Yeah. Don't worry. This is we're gonna spend quite a bit of time practicing this as well. Okay, so you're gonna get that advantage, but at least you're going into to this knowing that you're going into this knowing that you have that at least that base knowledge of it. There are subtle little differences between what is required for you in terms of creating a DFD for ComSci as opposed to creating it for IT, in terms of how it's represented. And most times, it's really negligible changes, but it's just a matter of preference for designing it. The ERDs, likewise, right? The ERDs are pretty standard between both of them. But the DFDs, I think stylistically, there's a bit of a difference. Ryan, you have a question?
Oh, no, sir, I forgot to put back down, man.
Oh, okay. I had lowered everybody hand, and then I thought I lowered everybody hand, and then I saw yours came back up now. All right, so we have okay, yeah, we have software analysis and design tools. Um, we took a look at basically when we went through the DFDs, not the DFDs, the SDLCs. We identified what the purpose of each stage of the SDLC was, right? We now have the analysis and design tools. With regards to requirements analysis, we had a discussion last class on the purpose of utilizing things such as interviewing. Besides interviewing, what else did we discuss? Anybody? Anybody?
Wait, what else did we discuss? Say it
Yes,
again.
for requirements analysis, you do things like interviews and
Um, like no, not test. That's a whole nother
I
stuff.
don't know. This is the basics of the same exercise you're supposed to be doing, eh?
Yeah.
So observation.
Yeah.
Observation and right, interviews, observation, and what? Trying to get this
So like review and documents.
right, yeah. Okay, so like document review, etc. So basically, let me just okay, so we had the requirement specifications, and just this is just a recap what we were supposed to be doing. So for our requirement specifications, We had the investigative techniques of interviews, of observations, and of questionnaires. Right? So we have interviews, observations, questionnaires. Just to remind us, what is the purpose of the requirement specification? It was literally the name of the last class. Right? What is the purpose of requirement specification? So if you go into the timeline, you would see the name of the last class was what? Anybody?
So software quality begins with the quality of requirements.
Right. So the requirement specification does what?
Improve the software quality.
Yeah. This essentially guides it guides the development of the software, right? So when you are doing your requirements gathering, the purpose of doing the requirements gathering is to ensure that at the end of the day, when that software is developed, that you end up with exactly what is needed by the customer. Okay? And the way that we have to find out what is needed by the customer is that we have to investigate. So we use these investigative techniques right? Investigative, right? Investigative techniques to be able to gather the information from the different area, from enough different areas to be able to say eventually, right? To be able to say eventually that we know exactly what direction the software has gone into. Okay? And even if you tie the name of today's class in with the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of meeting the schedule has been forgotten, that again speaks to requirements specifications. Because if in terms of you doing your requirements, what is stressed by the person is that I need a piece of software and I need it fast, right? Speed. You all ever see this triangle where you have, right? You have speed, you have quality, and you have cost. And you could only really choose two, right? Speed, quality, or cost, right? Or let me say low cost. And so if it is that you want the software done quickly, you're going to actually have to either invest more or you're going to have to sacrifice quality. If you want the software to be high quality, again, you either have to pay for rapid development, or if you choose low cost, then you mightn't get the software in the timing that you want, right? And if you want your software at a low cost, okay, it's either you get it quickly or it will be poor quality. There's always a sacrifice. If it is that you're looking to satisfy all three of these, that's not really possible. If you're looking to satisfy low cost, if you want quick low cost software quickly and it's high quality, then that's a unicorn. Okay, you're chasing a unicorn. You're chasing after something that don't really exist. All right. I mean, there of course there are going to be anomalous cases where all three are probably going to be satisfied. But that might be actually for very small products. Okay? The larger the product gets, it is the harder, right? It's going to be harder and harder to get all three of these as your as your as your as your software gets developed. You all understand? You all with me here?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in doing your investigations, and I'm going through this was just supposed to be like more recap, but you know, I'm going through just to make sure that we have it solid. Is that in doing your investigations, these are the three that CAPE requires, but these are not the only three. We saw last week that there were others, right? Such as things like, of course, doing like document analysis, right? And oh, there was another one that I can't remember off the top of my head, right? Just going back to it. All right, yes, look at here. Like task analysis, which is more like the observation. You do domain analysis. So you might watch other software that is similar to the software that you need to create for this particular use case, right? You might have focus groups, brainstorming, you might do some sort of prototyping, etc. So there are other methods for investigating. Okay, but the three that CAPE focuses on is the interviews, observations, and questionnaires. Now you could add others in your techniques of analysis use section that we are working on developing. But the thing is, CAPE is only going to grade you for these three. Okay? So while you could have others, while others might be necessary, these three, why is my highlighter not working? All right. These three are the main ones that CAPE is looking at. So who do you interview when you're investigating? Let me call a name. Let me call Iran.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, who do we interview?
Probably the owner of the business.
Right. So we interview the owner of the business or a manager, right? Is interview. And why do we interview them? Why we can't just include them in a questionnaire? Hmm? Anybody could answer that. Josiah, see like you was about to talk.
I have something in my head, but I'm not sure. Like,
No, you can say it.
like the owner of the business, so like know more about the business, and you'll be able to give you more open-ended answers.
Right. Okay. I like that second part more than the first part. Right? The owner may or may not know more about the business, but the owner is able to, and this is where the second part comes in that you're correct, is able to say what the vision is going to be or the direction that they want the business to go into. Right? So the owner or the manager is responsible for, because they're also financing the product, the project. Right? So the owner, the manager needs to have input to be able to tell us, well, this is what I see, or this is the goal, this is the vision for the business. Okay, the owner, the manager, if it is, and if we're looking at a business or an organization, we have basically three layers or three levels. And we have the executive level, we have the managerial level, and we have the operational level. Okay? The executive level people are the ones who make the ones who focus on the long-term decision making. The managers, they do the short-term decision making. And the people on the operational level do the day-to-day, right? Operations and, tasks of the business. And information feeds up, right, by way of reports. So when we have to make a decision in terms of something that even affects the operational level, the executive level has to give input on that, because a change down here could change the direction, a change down here could change the direction of where they want to be in the long term. You all with me on this? So the thing is, we have to ask the executive, how do you see, and we could even do this on a small scale business, this don't have to be no Amazon, no Microsoft or Walmart or anything so, right? Even if we take a business that is small, a little grocery, but they want to implement some things. A grocery has some long-term goals, right? A grocery has some long-term goals. So a grocery has to make a couple decisions long-term. A grocery has to make some short-term decisions, and a grocery has a lot of operational things going on, like stocking shelves, checking stock to make sure that certain things not expired, or that you didn't put out something that has a closer expiry date than something else, right? You have all of the transactions going on at the registers. You have people who would want to bring back items for refunds and stuff like that. We have short-term decisions going on in a grocery. And the short-term decisions going on in a grocery might include things like, okay, should we stock this particular brand of flour on our shelves? Or this other brand of flour is not available this month, or might not be available for the next 3 months. We have to get a substitute, because we know how much flour we sell for a particular month. And we know that right now we don't have enough flour to satisfy the needs of our customer. And then we have things like the long-term decisions, as in, where does this grocery see themselves in a couple of years? I want to be able to open another branch. How could we increase productivity and minimize stock losses so that we are able to meet those financial goals? Is everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So if it is now, we taking this concept now and we slimming it down into them now making a requirement for some software. They're making a requirement for some software that is now going to change each one of these three aspects of their existence as an organization. So we have the interview, right? We interview the owner or manager, and we get information as to what the vision, the original vision of the organization is, and how that has changed, and how maybe the implementation of this new system could help to achieve the goals of the organization. It could help to make the organization reach where the owner or the manager wants it to be, right? So that's the purpose of doing the interviews. I'm going to jump to the questionnaire. The questionnaires, you could do two sets of questionnaires. You could questionnaire the clients, or you could questionnaire the employees. Okay, so you could pose questionnaires to the clients, or you could pose questionnaires to the employees. Why? How? And what's the purpose of doing this? In what case, in what instance would I pose a questionnaire to the clients, or in what instance would I pose a questionnaire to the employees? Hannah, you think you could answer that question? Okay, Chanel.
So, well, the employees will be able to give you like insight into the actual day-to-day runnings of what's going on. And then if you ask the
Right.
clients those questions, they will be able to give you insight as to like the user experience rather than, like what the company themselves think they are doing.
Yeah, that is a good answer, right? So the user experience, and of course they could give you like an external view, right? So an external view of interacting with the company. The employees, as Chanel said, is going to give us that internal view, the internal operational view of the company. And what that will tell us is that it's going to let us know, well, what are the practices, what are the procedures from the employee side, what they think works well and what they think frustrates them. From the client side, do you have an efficient experience? Is that experience constant? Sometimes people go somewhere and they have two different sets of experiences. Like I had a past student who recently got his passport renewed in Sandy Grande. And he was speaking high praise of them. Because he was saying, oh, he went so early, he get through fast, everything went well. And then I say, okay, well, my children have to get their passport renewed. I'm going there. And I went there and I ended up having to wait almost 4 hours to get, my appointment was for 9 a.m. We finished inside of there at 1:30 p.m. or 1 p.m. Somewhere inside there, right? The experience was bad. Now you have two different sets of people operating with the same system on 2 different days, and you're getting 2 contrasting views. So this is why, and the reality is, I'm sure that everybody here could agree that is the experience in Trinidad and Tobago, right? That you sometimes end up with, you go to a place and you find it work well, and somebody else go to a place and you see them complaining so much about the about the service there, right? And the goal is to have everybody to make everybody get a consistent experience. So this is kind of like a way of getting some secondary information, right? As the investigator, you get people's reports or people's experiences. And then the last one is the observation. Okay? The last one is the observation. And what is the purpose of the observation? For you to witness as the investigator firsthand, right? So you are the witness here, right? So to witness the system the current system in operation. And there are things that when you see for yourself, they say seeing is believing. So there are things that when you see for yourself as the system analyst or as the requirements investigator, that you might not even, that an employee would not have picked up on, because an employee might think, well, this is normal, right? So I'm not even going to complain about that, all right? Or a client might not be privy to how their data is handled on the inside, or how a request is handled on the inside, okay? So you observe for yourself how the system goes through. So in your observation, you should take an approach where over a period of days, every day, you watch the system data come into the system, how that data is processed, how that data is output. And you're watching it both on a macro level, where you kind of watch the whole system and see the flow of the system. And this is where the data flow diagrams help. And then you also watch the system and you watch it, and you watch an individual piece of data or an individual request for the system, and you see that data move through the system. You all with me here?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody have any questions about this? Any concerns? Did this clear up some things for you guys?
Yes,
So you can screenshot that and send it in the chat, please.
I will send this document for you.
All right, yeah.
All right, because there are other notes that I've scribbled up on, and I would admit I should have sent this one with the annotations previously. But I will send this for sure after class today. And if I don't, just send me a WhatsApp message reminding me to. Okay. All right, so we get into the software analysis and design tools. So we just kind of did a little recap of the requirement specification. Now we're taking a look at the data, we're taking a look at the system that we currently have to work with. And the reason that a data flow diagram is both an analysis tool and a design tool, because I'm sure that Mr. Laban mentioned that in class when he visited last class, right? That you certain things overlap in terms of using it for analysis and design. As an analysis tool, a data flow diagram, which is a diagram that looks at representing the whole system graphically, could help you understand how the current system works. And then as a design tool, the data flow diagram also helps you to model how the improved system should work. Okay? So your data flow diagram is a graphic representation of the flow of data in an information system. So we just generally looking at this information system, and we're seeing how data changes into information by passing through our system. Okay? It looks at the data coming in. It looks at the data that's leaving the system. It looks at the data that is stored in the system. Okay? So depending on the DFD, it doesn't mention too much about how the data flows through. And I think that what they mean by this is how the data flows through as in terms of like in order. It's not a flow chart. A DFD is not a flow chart. Okay? A DFD is just a model of how the data moves from one part of the system to the other. There is a logical flow to it, but it is not a flow chart. Okay? So we have both logical DFDs, which look at system processes, flow of data in the system, right? So we're looking for, like, maybe in a banking system, how data moves between different entities. And we have a physical DFD, which shows how the data flow is actually implemented in the system, right? We're not focusing too much on the physical right now. We're more thinking about the logical DFD, okay? And we're going to take a look at the parts of the DFD. Now, the way that the DFDs are implemented here is not my preferred way of implementing the DFDs, right? The only thing that we have here that actually has to change is the process. So the process, the way that I like the process is it needs to be more of a rounded circle like this. So this is how my process really should be, right? So there is that, and if I could get a line, I'll draw a line and okay, so I'm going to change this color to white. Okay, so our process looks more like this for computer science. Okay, everything else is the same. When we are doing the lower level DFDs, we have the entity, the process, the data store, and the data flow. Okay, so what are each one of these things? Entities are the sources of the information. Entities are also the destination of the information. If I have a system, and the system simply, and actually let me represent the system as well. The system, the way I represent it, is typically a circle, right? And I will show you all the difference for when to use the system and when to use the system and when to use the boxes. I really hope everybody's still with me here.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we have the system. We have the system is when you are representing a DFD at the context level. So this is used at the context level, right? Which is the level 0. And I will clear that up in a bit. For this part, these symbols here, right, are used to show, right? So these are used to show the breakdown of the system. And we don't really go past level 1, right? So we have entities. As I said before, entities are where the data is generated. Entities are where data goes to. If you have some system and you put in information into the system and you're never getting anything out of it, you know what that is called? Anybody? I'm sure you all would have learned that in IT. If I have a system and I only put information in it and I don't get anything out of it, what is it called? Nobody gonna answer? Okay, it's called a black hole, right? Because if I'm just throwing information in or throwing data in a system and that system not giving me anything, then it's a black hole. If it is that I have a system and I never put anything into that system, but I am getting information out of that system, right? I never put in a request. I never even put in a request for
A miracle.
information. It's a miracle. Yes. Ryan, you remember that or you looked it up?
Nah, I didn't look it up, but he says it was divine intervention.
Right? Well, it was a miracle. Look at that. All right. So if you once you are putting information into a process or a system and you're not getting anything back, it's a black hole. That's a bad system. Once you getting information out of a system, even when you're not even doing as much as requesting anything, well, that is indeed a miracle, right? God smiling upon you. Or maybe not, because if that system is like a tax return system or something, so then, and not a tax return, a tax auditing system, then you're in trouble. Okay? So we have the entities, we have the processes. The processes convert data from one form to another. Okay? If you pass in a piece of data through a process and you have that same data being output, okay, let's just say there's nothing changing with the data or it's not going to storage, then that process, something is wrong with that process. So either the process has to output the data to store it, or the process should have converted that data in some manner. Okay? You should not get the same data that you put in out of a process. Then what's the purpose of the process? Data storage. You have a data store, right? And you have a data store. This is so that you can keep your data to retrieve for later use. And then you have your data flow. And your data flows must be annotated. For every data flow line, there must be some kind of notation saying what this piece of data is. All right? So we have some levels of DFDs, and this level 0 is here, the context level, and this note is level 0. I know that in IT, I think they separate the context level and level 0, not so? Yes or no?
Yes, sir, I think it's the same.
Yeah.
No, so it's the same, sir.
It's the
It's the
same.
same, sir.
So at the context level is level 0.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. Right? So let's roll with that. So the level 0 diagram, and if I'm looking at this diagram here, and I want to draw it over, right? I have my entity, which is my customer. I have my online shopping system. And I have my order going into the system and my delivery information coming out, right? Order info and delivery info. Now, I want to make something clear. A DFD does not represent anything besides information or data on the system. So you cannot see this, right? You can't see this item. This is incorrect. There can't be any physical representation of an item or anything tangible, because the item does not pass through the system. The delivery info is the information associated with the item being delivered. You with me? Are you with me?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? So we do not show anything like this. No physical, HYSICEL, right? No physical items represented. All right? No physical items represented. And this is the overview of the system. This is the level 0 or the context level diagram. Once we go to the first level, right? Once we go to the first level, then we break up the system. Okay? So we have now and I don't like how this is represented here at all. Right? Because this is not very well represented at all. Don't use this example. Okay, so I'm going to cross this out in the notes. And I'm going to let us take a little break right now. And when we come back, we're going to break down this system, this online shopping system, to, a level 1 system, right? A first level system. Everybody is good with that? Anybody have any questions before we take the little break?
Yes, sir. I see you use like a circle for the online system. I know you said there's use circles, but can't you use the process symbol as well?
Can I use the what?
Process symbol instead of the circle here.
Some people use a large process box. This is just how I was taught, and I feel it's more appropriate. So I would request that you use it. I mean, I'm not going to strike it off as incorrect if you use a large rounded box like that for your system, but it just doesn't feel natural to me. It's not how I would represent it in ComSci. Okay, but I don't let it be a problem. That's fine, Josiah?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so anybody else with a question? All right, so we're going to take a little break.